Hello, 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 and welcome to what I cannot believe is actually our 50th episode of the Collective Spotlight. Means we've been doing this for more than a year. We haven't missed an episode. We've done Kickstarters. We've done
it for more than a year.
50 weeks.
52 weeks.
Oh, all right. So,
Really
just short of a year. But this is our $9.99 50th issue special, and we have a really awesome. We've been doing, like I said, Kickstarters, publishers, creators. With this episode, we get to bring in a whole publisher with Filip from Boom Studios. Sorry, Steven, you're in my way. Filip from Boom Studios. How are you doing today, Filip?
I'm doing awesome, Danny. Thanks for having me on. Thanks for inviting me.
Dude, thank you for taking the time to be on our 50th show, man. I'm really honored to have you on. Can you tell the people a little bit about what your position is at Boom? Because you're kind of a jack of all trades.
Yeah, that's well, as I describe it to anybody that isn't familiar with comics, my title is President of Publishing and Marketing, but what that basically means is that within Boom, I am not involved in the content creation, which is our awesome editorial and production design team headed up by Matt Gagnon, nor am I responsible for paying the bills, which is our awesome CFO, Joy Huffman. But on the publishing team, I handle basically everything else. So everything from getting deals done with creators and with licensors to marketing and distributor relationships, retailer relationships, you name it. I probably have either done it or am I doing it in some capacity.
So you mentioned a little bit of everything you do. And one of the big things is, like you mentioned, marketing and IP. And one of the new books you guys have coming out this week is the Power Rangers Unlimited. That's literally tomorrow. Good friend of the store, Frank Gogol, is writing that. And Power Rangers is an IP that Boom has really owned over the last couple of years. Talk to us a little bit about what it's like working with IPs. You guys work with Power Rangers. You guys work with WWE. You worked with Adventure Time and Steven Universe. What's it like having to work with those companies for that?
Yeah, well, first of all, I'm just going to say everybody should check out that special. I am not like I'm a little too old to be a OG Power Rangers fan because it first started, and I think I was probably like going into that phase of teenage life where I was more interested in driving and
Girls.
and talking to girls, and so I kind of missed the original window. But obviously, big fan of Power Rangers now, and that special that Frank wrote is really, really cool. I think it's got some cool reveals in it. I don't want to spoil anything, but I read it, and as somebody who's, would consider themselves a more casual Power Rangers fan, thought it was a big deal. So, sometimes specials get kind of like put off to the side as if they're just kind of a side story. This one matters. I mean, we try to make everything we do matters, but on the licensing side, I think, one of the things I always think about, and one of the conversations that I had with the team when I first started was that I look at licensing as this amazing opportunity to introduce people to comics. So when I look at Power Rangers, when I look at WWE, when I look at Magic the Gathering, Adventure Time, some of the other things you named, I think about this could be somebody's first comic book. And so we try to pick brands and properties that we think are a good intersection and a good opportunity to introduce people to this amazing medium that we love. And certainly Power Rangers has been that. Power Rangers is a teen superhero story, really. And so we saw it as an opportunity to bring this amazing fandom more deeply into comics and get them engaged and hopefully introduce them to other things that they liked as well. And I think in order to do that, you have to have partners that are willing to let you tell stories that matter and treat these brands and these properties as if they were just as much yours as the things that you are originating. And so that's what we try to do. We try to create comics for Power Rangers fans that we would want to read and that would be exciting and meaningful and impactful for us. And hopefully we've done a decent job of that.
Well, absolutely. And you actually mentioned one in there that I totally forgot, and that is my absolute bad. And you guys were really proud of this, especially Morgan, who's kind of your counterpart. You guys recently got the IP for Magic the Gathering and did, you guys are 3 issues into this series so far. And it's been well received both by comic readers and the Magic fans. And this was something that you guys talked about highly and were really proud of putting together. Can you talk a little bit about getting the Magic IP and everything like that?
Yeah. Well, we had built a relationship with Hasbro through Power Rangers. So Power Rangers was originally owned by Saban Entertainment, which is what who we did our original deal with, and then Hasbro purchased Saban and the Power Rangers franchise, and so we got to know the team over there, and they came to us and said, "What do you think about Magic?" And we're like, "Well, it's gigantic," and we kind of thought about all of this rich mythology and world building that the Wizards of the Coast team had done. And it felt to us like there was a real opportunity to tell a big story with Magic. I think previous iterations would kind of focus on a specific planeswalker or a specific period of time and kind of like delve deeper into stories. And I think this is a very common thing in licensed publishing, is kind of what's the side story we can delve deeper into and explore in a more robust way. And we showed up and we're like, well, what if we just did like this really gigantic story that starts in Ravnica, but basically touches on all these different planes and like brings in everybody's favorite characters. I think one of the things that we talked about is like, what if we put together the Avengers of the Planeswalkers, and kind of brought all these cool characters together. And that's what we've been trying to do. And Jed and Eeg, who are the writer and the artist respectively, have just been doing a tremendous job on it. I think, we're still relatively early. Like you said, we got 3 issues out. The 4th issue wraps up the first story arc, but the second story arc, there's some really big reveals coming. We're going to find out who is behind some of the machinations that we've laid the groundwork for, and pull in some really cool characters. And I'm just excited for all the fans of Magic, and then the people that are coming in and checking out Magic for the first time to see just how big this multiverse is.
And I thought one of the things you guys that was really cool and very, very different. You guys did choose to forego doing any type of card promotions, but you did do the polybagged covers. And you guys used, I forget what the word that you guys used in the solicit is, but it was essentially one of 3 covers, and it was a polybag secret cover. And Hidden Planeswalkers Dead. That's what you guys called them. And those have done phenomenal for us. Can you talk a little about the decision to not go with cards and rather go with kind of a card opening maybe experience with those Hidden Planeswalkers?
Yeah, I'm really glad you keyed in on that, Danny, because the decision to not do cards was a joint decision between us and the folks at Hasbro and Wizards of the Coast. And part of the thinking was that the conventional wisdom was that Magic comics only sold to Magic players, and they only sold to Magic players because there was a card in it. And both Hasbro and Wizards of the Coast, and us as well, wanted to try to see if we could engage with that audience as well as everybody else coming into comic shops on a story basis. And if every comic has a card, then there's no ability to pick it up and browse through it and check out the amazing art inside to, maybe see some of the cool splash pages and the big kind of scope of the story that we were telling. So that was why we didn't do cards. But at the same time, we, it's fun opening a pack of cards, and it is part of the experience of being a fan of Magic. And there are all these amazing planeswalkers. And so we thought, well, maybe we can have some fun. We can also commission a bunch of really cool artists to do portraits of these planeswalkers, and in some cases render them in ways that I think people haven't seen on the cards and within the game. I think bigger than that, one of the things that we try to do at Boom is we want to create readers and we want to create collectors. And we think that those are 2 very important parts of the market. And those are sometimes one person is both a reader and a collector, but other times, people are coming into comic shops for different reasons. And so we wanted to make the story and the art compelling, but anytime we do variant covers, we want them to be connected with the property in some way and resonate in some way. And so we always try to look for those opportunities to create programs that fit with whatever the property is that we're doing. So with Magic, it was these Hidden Planeswalker covers. And then I believe with the second arc, we're evolving that, and there's going to be a polybag program called the Hidden Spark. And we haven't revealed yet kind of like what that art looks like. But, you want it to be fun and interesting when I think, and for us, it's fun and interesting to come up with these different programs. So sometimes we've got a new series that we just announced called Maw, and it is a horror series. And so we're doing these homage covers to classic horror movie posters as one of the variants. And so just kind of looking for those opportunities to create collectability and something that feels authentic to whatever the series is that we're doing.
And it was nice to let you talk a little bit about other people's IPs before I kind of go in. You guys have, again, done really well. You guys have, and these are just two of the very many. Actually, one of my favorites is right here, which is Mech Cadet U, which just got optioned recently. I think it was a great, not just all ages book, but book for, I mean, I'm 30 years old and I read it at that age. But you guys have...
It's only about your reading.
You guys have been killing it with Something Is Killing the Children. That was really this book went to an 8th printing right here. Talk to us about the roller coaster ride that has been launching and going through the successes of Something Is Killing the Children.
Yeah, absolutely. And first, you might not know this, but Mech Cadet is actually not just optioned; it is actually in production. The Netflix is making at least one season of the animated show, so we're super excited about that. And yeah, Something Is Killing the Children, I think, was a combination of a lot of things coming together. Our editorial team and the creators we work with, I think, have been putting out amazing content for many, many years. But one of the things that happened in 2019 is we had this great moment with Once and Future, which was our first series with Kieran Gillen. And it was a very big deal for us. And, we took a bit of a swing on that one, in that we said we weren't going to do any variant covers. We're just going to do one cover and we're going to put it out. And we were, going to put Dan Mora, who is an artist that is one of our favorites and came up through Boom Studios, obviously continues to work on Once and Futures on Detective Comics now over at DC as well. And I think that was one of the first times that we kind of broke through to a whole new group of retailers who started looking at us and going, okay, well, even if I don't carry Boom Originals on my shelves, this is a series I have to pay attention to. And I think it ended up overperforming and selling even better than people expected. And so then the second series that we had after that was Something Is Killing the Children with James Tynan and Werther Dell'Edera. And at the time that we announced it, James was shortly afterwards announced as the writer of Batman. So James had been doing work with us for many years, but it was that kind of right place, right time. The Batman announcement, people were excited about that. And there's just something, we knew that the thing about Something Is Killing the Children is it's such an evocative title. You immediately makes you go wait, what? What's killing the children? And that's a really long title. It's intriguing. It's disruptive, right? And I think we had kind of a combination of reader interest and collectors who were really excited about James's rising profile and this new opportunity to get in on the ground series of a new series. And those two series took off. Something has continued to just blow up. Every new arc, we see a huge jump in orders and readership. The trade paperback collections have been selling absolutely just gonzo. Like, like,
I mean to interrupt, but you can't keep volume 1 on the shelf.
Yeah, it's impossible.
We order it in multiples of 10, and you just can't keep.
I think we put it in an order of 20 at one point, and it didn't last us a month, which is unheard of in trade paperback world. Yeah.
Really yeah, I think it's really, every once in a while you catch lightning in a bottle, and it's kind of a combination of amazing creative. I think it also, there's something very iconic about Erica Slaughter as a character, and all that credit to James and Werther for developing her as a character. And I think, y'all know that in comics, like an iconic silhouette of a character with, the iconography of that mask, of the big eyes, the ponytail, she's got a chainsaw there, but normally a machete. And then the promise that they, built in of a deeper world, and you start hearing about the House of Slaughter and the Order of St. George, and like who are all it's like when you go see John Wick, and you at first you're like, oh, I'm just watching like a revenge story with Keanu Reeves, and that's cool. But then they start to kind of like lay these little breadcrumbs of a deeper world. And obviously that maybe segues us to Berserker, which has been like our biggest series ever. And the biggest, comic launch in almost 30 years in the comic market, which is fantastic.
And it was crazy to see that happen organically very much. I mean, absolutely organically in 2019, where, people, there's always the rumblings, oh, comics are dead and comic book stores and this and that. And you see a book like Something Is Killing the Children that demands an 8th printing. I've been seeing retailers bugging you guys. Can we do a final printing of every copy, moving forward? I think you guys did it with We Only Find Them When They're Dead, and a few other. Seven Secrets might have done it as well. So that's an idea out there that I know a lot of people have talked about. But you also
think it's a good idea.
I saw that you and Morgan were intrigued. So I would love to see.
Not a bad
it's
idea.
not a bad idea.
It's not a bad idea. That's right.
I wouldn't be surprised maybe see it in Diamond Previews in a month or two, right?
You never know. I mean, good ideas come from anywhere. So and we like to use them.
So you obviously also mentioned Keanu Reeves and John Wick, and you guys had a I don't even want to call it lightning in a bottle twice, but you guys had a crazy scenario happen with Berserker. Now, talk to me a little bit, because I remember before the solicitations, there was there was some news about it going to Kickstarter to start, and then eventually it came through here. So, talk to us about the process of working with a guy like Keanu for a book like Berserker, which you guys also went above and beyond to offer a 1 in 1,000 that was signed by the man himself.
Yeah, I think, in terms of working with Keanu, it's fantastic. And I think part of what makes this such a unicorn of a book is, it's not the first time we've seen a celebrity step into comics and either lend their name or lend their ideas to a comic book. But I do think this is the first time in a long time that I can remember that a celebrity like Keanu, who's got such like authenticity in the space, like he has been part of some of the biggest franchises that get talked about in comic shops, right? Mm-hmm. He's also authentic in the sense that like he can tell you stories about going into Golden Apple in the 80s and picking up his weekly pulls. He can talk to you at length about his love of Love and Rockets and Frank Miller and, Bill Sienkiewicz and Jeff Darrow, like that's something that I immediately clocked in on when I had a chance to sit down with him and talk with him, is like, this is not an avenue for him into something else. It's also not a side project. This is like a real passion project for him. And he wants to make sure that he is really helping create the story of Berserker. And so we knew there was a really cool opportunity there, because he was willing to walk the walk and said, whatever you guys need in terms of, my support and however I can. I mean, he's filming like 3 movies at a time, so he's a very busy man, but this is like one of his big projects. And so it was really cool to see him engage in it wholeheartedly. Oh, there's the signed edition.
Yeah, we each had to take a selfie with it when it came in.
Yeah, and that was, one of the things we realized is that because he is also, I think for somebody of his stature, he's relatively private.
Mm-hmm.
And so he's not one of these folks that is out, doing signings at conventions all the time. It's relatively rare that you can have that kind of like one-on-one interaction with him. And there's really not that many opportunities to get stuff autographed. So we knew the book was going to be big. We thought, what is a way that we can offer this out to retailers, accomplish our goal, which is get as many copies on the shelf as possible, so that, because we knew that there were going to be all these fans of Keanu that had never stepped foot into a comic shop, or maybe not stepped foot into a comic shop in years, looking for this book. And we knew that was like, you got one shot at that when a casual fan walks in. You either have the book and they buy it, or you don't, and they probably don't come back. And so that was our objective. And, trying to figure out how many was a reasonable thing to ask him to sign, how many copies, and then how we would kind of balance that. But I will be honest, the day we were getting our final numbers from Diamond, and I was kind of obsessively checking every hour, I started to get a little worried that we were going to have to go back and ask him to sign more, because we had a number that we thought we needed, and then we were like, okay, well, we'll buffer this a good amount and just to be safe. And then retailers, comic shops came in even stronger than we ever dared to dream, and we knew it was going to be a big book. We hardly thought, I think anybody that tells you after the fact that they think a comic is going to sell 500,000 copies is probably rewriting history a little bit.
I remember the day we sat down and crunched the numbers to see if like ordering 1,000 copies was even like realistic for us.
Yeah, I mean, we're one store. And again, actually, I'll give people a little bit behind the scenes, because we have you here, and honestly, we have you and Boom Studios to thank, because a lot of factors actually played into that. You guys offered some returnability, which was something that coming out of the pandemic, a lot of publishers were offering, and some stuck with it. Mm-hmm. And you guys offered great incentives. I mean, we have a guy still to this day that without a signed 1/1000, he is asking for every incentive cover, because you guys are doing great art and everything like that. But a lot of this isn't something that happens with any book. A Bill and Ted book doesn't automatically do that. You guys offered retailer support, very much so, not just in the returnability, but honestly in what you guys did with this for the issue 2s, because you guys had the foils and everything else. So you guys very much, I know you guys are very thankful of what retailers were able to do, but I mean, I think it's a very much a double-sided coin, in the sense that it wouldn't have been possible without the support that you guys did on your end. And I'm sure there's some convincing, some arm twisting, some guys in higher up, but I mean, you guys knocked it out of the park and have continued to do so. So I really just wanted to take an opportunity to say that to you guys.
Yeah, and
thank you.
Over here, I will say that Boom has been probably one of the best publishers to work with as a retailer, period. From the amount of support that you give us with returnability and things like that, plus, your willingness to help us get the books in front of people ahead of time before they need to be ordered and things like that. It's really just fantastic the way you guys support the retailer.
And to just give people a shout out to Morgan Perry is actually, kind of your counterpart, and she is always keeping us retailers informed and telling us about everything. So again, it couldn't be done without the support that you guys give us. And then I was going to say,
really cool when you look.
Yeah, Morgan is fantastic. She is, I think, in my opinion, best in the business. She does the work of by herself of sales departments, and she's our retail sales lead. Was at the end of last year, had a very, very well-earned promotion because of all the work that she's been doing with stores. And you were showing off the guarantee store list. Y'all are
it's
partners.
Always really cool to see our name.
We're not.
We are. It's really tiny, and I'm probably not gonna be able to pull it, but we are there, right in Florida. It's.
I can show it to you.
Right.
Yeah. There it is. coming into focus.
There we are.
Is the collective.
But
Yeah.
I remember the first time, and I'm sure we had been in there for a while, but I was just finishing up a book, and I get back there, and then the first time I saw that, I was like, wow, that's really great of them. But you guys have done great work, and actually another IP I wanted to talk to you about, because we have a lot of brown coats in the store. Firefly is something that you guys have done really great with Greg Pak writing the main, but then recently you actually spun off of something which was Firefly Brand New Verse. And that's actually been really awesome because it's been able to grab new readers, people who didn't watch the Firefly TV show. Was that part of the idea of launching Brand New Verse?
Yeah, I think, we had this, when we went into Firefly, we had a pretty clear idea of what we wanted to do in the first year. And we wanted to really kind of tell a story about Mal's past and, the Battle of Serenity Valley, and kind of like delve into some of, I always think of Firefly as a sci-fi version of kind of like what happened after the Civil War, and all these characters went west, and kind of the manifest destiny of it all. And this was kind of like taking a step back and looking at like, well, what are the events that shaped that? And what was cool about the way that Greg and Dan McDade and a number of the other like really talented artists that worked on that series told that story is they were able to introduce new characters, like Boss Moon. They were able to really kind of capture the voice of the show and continue to expand it. And then in the second year, we were talking with Greg and with the creative team and the editors on that project, and looking at like, well, how do we continue to open this up? And both the second year of the main series jumps forward past kind of where the Dark Horse comics stopped and where the film stopped, and then Brand New Verse jumps really far forward, and it focuses on Emma, who is Zoe and Wash's daughter, as a grown up, as getting ready to kind of step into the captain's chair of the Serenity. So yeah, it was really cool to see the response to that. But part of, I think, what we always try to do is with brands like that is like, how do we enrich the experience people are having? How do we add to the story? How do we open up the world even more and give people, it's fun to revisit characters we love, but it's always cool to see the story move forward. So we try to do that as much as we can as well.
Well, I mean, you guys knocked it out of the park, I feel like, with Brand New Verse, because it was kind of, I guess, for lack of a better term, a legacy book, because old fans would love to see, Wash. I mean, spoiler alert, Wash isn't there the whole time. So, people love to see that character live on in legacy. People love Zoe and people love Mal. So, like, kind of putting all those pieces together, it's been able to get a lot of new people to read Firefly, even people that never knew about it, which is really cool. And another thing I want to talk to you about, because you guys at Boom Studios actually do a phenomenal job with your all ages books, which I think you guys kind of brand under Kaboom and Boom Box. Talk to me a little bit. Actually, I want to start with when you guys had the relationship with Cartoon Network, because you guys had done Steven Universe and Adventure Time. And is that a relationship?
Still doing that.
Oh yeah, you guys are still doing that. Is that a relationship that works a little bit both ways? Like, are you guys potentially ever talking to them about like maybe Wind being adapted that way? How does a relationship like that work between the two?
Well, I think it's important to note that, like, when you're talking about large studios or networks, typically in those corporate structures, the consumer products team, which is the team that is licensing brands out for publishing, is very much separate from the production team or the creative executives. So there's not usually a direct line there. That being said, we're based in Los Angeles. We've got a amazing arm of the company that is focused just on adaptation and taking the original content that we publish and translating it into film and TV. That team is led by Stephen Christie, who's the former editor-in-chief of Archaea, and just like a brilliant, I always tell Stephen that he's like one of the only people I know that can kind of walk through both the world of comics and the world of film and TV very authentically. And so him and his team are out there, working on translating things, and they have their own relationships with places like Cartoon Network, Warner Brothers. Obviously, we have a first look with Netflix right now for TV and animation, and so like that's always going to be the first stop for us. Is we're always going to present stuff to Netflix and see if they're interested and see if we can get something going with them. But then beyond that, opportunities abound, and I can't say what, but we definitely have had conversations with Cartoon Network and Warner Brothers and all their sister companies about certain projects, and even an animated project or two. So,
I like to hear it, and I could see that. Now, as you mentioned, the Netflix first deal, actually, who better to decipher? Because Berserker had a lengthy press release sent out a month or two ago about everything that it was moving forward with. Since we have the man himself, I think actually you might have written that press release. Can you kind of break down what the production, what is going to be happening with Berserker moving forward? Because it's multiple projects, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yeah. So Netflix has optioned the rights to do a Berserker feature film and an anime series. And the idea is that they're going to focus on the feature film first. Keanu is attached to star in both of those productions, as well as produce it alongside of us. And so right now they're in the development process. So that means finding, obviously the comic book is still being created, but that includes bringing a screenwriter on board to the project and developing it. And then once Netflix is happy with that, there are additional steps in terms of finding a director, finding a cast, and moving forward with it. So it's still pretty early going, that one. And it's fairly unusual for us to get into development on a project that has just come out, because a lot of times, understandably, both our media team and the creative executives who are purchasing and optioning things want to have a sense of what the complete story is, or at least a significant piece of it. But when you have somebody like Keanu attached, as you can imagine, there was a lot of excitement around that property, and we're really, really thrilled to be partnered with Netflix on it. Obviously, it's such a tremendous platform for exposing people to comics and to new stories. So, that's where we're at with it currently. It's early yet, but we're all really, really excited and have high hopes for it.
That's awesome. And one of the things I actually kind of loved is being a 90s kid. I thought when you guys announced that it was going to be live action and an animated, I kind of thought it was like this 12 Degrees of Kevin Bacon, but with Keanu type of situation. Because if some people remember from the 90s, there was an Animatrix animated, and it was supposed to be like connective tissue to the Matrix movies, which Keanu starred in. So I found it so funny how the world's come full circle, that now he is again going to be starring in a live action and animated project, which is cool. I mean, it's just, again, full circle how life comes, huh?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's something, Keanu, in addition to being a comics fan, is a fan of anime. The Wachowskis introduced him to anime and manga. And so I think he's got a real authentic love for that particular medium. And, one of the things that's embedded in Berserker is the character has been around for 80,000 years. So that's a lot of stories you can tell. And I think, in talking with Keanu, he is very much interested in using all of these different mediums to tell different pieces of the Berserker story, and really make each one additive so that you're not having a repetitive experience across these different mediums. So that's pretty cool.
So, Philip, I got a good question, because you kind of mentioned anime and things like that. There's some other studios, some other publishers in the U.S. that have dabbled in publishing American manga as well. Is that something that Boom has ever looked into, or any manga similar items that you guys might be looking to publish in the future?
We've had conversations around it. I can tell you that no plans currently, and I think one of the things that we think about whenever we take on new new lines of business or step into a new space within publishing is just making sure that we're confident we can execute it really well. And so manga is obviously very much its own space. The format of it, the way you tell stories, the types of stories. There is some overlap, but I think for now, when we look at that, we go, that would be a big endeavor to really step into that space in a meaningful way and show up in a way that's authentic and resonates with that audience. So I don't have any plans to do it now. Never say never, because we weren't a kids publisher until we were a kids publisher. We weren't a graphic novel publisher until we were a graphic novel publisher, and so I think we have a desire to continue. If you look at the history of Boom, I think there's a real desire to continue to expand the audience, to continue to bring more people into comics, and give them that entry point for comic books. And manga could certainly provide that, but then there's also some really amazing companies already very much established in that space and creating those new fans every day. So I think if we did step into it, we would need to make sure that we were really confident about what we were bringing to the table that isn't already there.
Yeah, the only reason I asked was because in my crazy nerd mind, I was like, man, these two would make really cool black and white mangas. So yeah, I could see already, and you guys have those IPs, so this could be
Yeah, and we've certainly done things like licensing out original content for illustrated novels. We did that with Lumberjanes, with Abrams and their imprint Amulet books, and then we did it with more recently with Goldie Vance and Fence with Little Brown Young Readers. So, if Viz, if you're watching, give us a call. We can have a conversation.
So you mentioned Lumberjanes was one that I totally forgot to mention. That was a great series that everybody loved. You guys were able to continue keeping that on the shelves for a long time to come, and people still buy it in trades and they grab it every time in Free Comic Book Day. That's a series that was both loved by adults and kind of the kids, middle grade readers, as we kind of refer to it.
Yep.
And it took a life of its own. Talk a little bit about Lumberjanes. And am I mistaken that it was optioned, I think, at one point?
Yeah, it's been optioned as in development previously it had been in development as a live action feature film, and now it's in development as an animated series. And so very active in that sense, and that work is currently being done. We were really excited on the animated side to have Noelle Stevenson, who was one of the co-creators and went on to do She-Ra over at DreamWorks and showrun that show, has come back to develop Lumberjanes for animation. So that's currently in process, and they're hard at work at that. We wrapped up the single issue series at the end of 2020. But as we tried to signal to everybody that that's probably not the last time you will see the Lumberjanes, but it felt like a good moment to kind of close the chapter on that particular summer for the Janes. But the collections continue to be perennials for us. We're constantly reprinting those. New readers are discovering. I know that's one of my favorite things. Is about the time I joined Boom. Shortly before that, I became a dad, and I've got 2 kids. And one of the things that attracted me to Boom was the fact that we were publishing books and comics for kids, and specifically for young girls. And Lumberjanes has been a favorite in my house. My girls are constantly rereading issues and the collections and the graphic novels. So I think that's going to be a property that we'll continue to revisit, continue to build.
So you've kind of gotten to actually watch this from the front seat, actually. Lumberjanes, you guys have been able to kind of grow the book along with the audience in a way. As the kids grew up, the book kind of grew up a little bit with it. Mm-hmm. As a dad of girls that were reading that book, did you notice that a little bit?
Yeah, I think so. And I think part of it is, as you get deeper into a series, the the writers want to tackle bigger stories. When we first started Lumberjanes, it was intended to be a limited series, and then it just, again, that lightning in a bottle moment that we've been fortunate to have multiple times. We extended it, and so once you extend that and it turns into an ongoing and it runs for multiple years, some of that's driven by the editors and the creators working on it for a long time. Shannon Waters and Kat Lay were the co-writers of that series. Shannon's one of the co-creators and an editor, the head of the Boombox imprint at Boom, and then she brought Kat in to co-write with her, and they've done a phenomenal job with it. So yeah, I think one of our goals in terms of publishing for whether it's middle grade or young adult is to make sure that we're not talking down to them when we're engaging with them, right? So we try to make sure that the content is a good fit, but is also something that whether you're an 8 to 12-year-old or with some of our Boombox titles, 13 to 18-year-old, you feel like speaks to you, not at you. And I think part of that is, in some cases, tackling bigger stories or heavier topics.
So another thing I wanted to ask you about, because you talked about how you kind of curate to get it right for the demographics. You guys had done a couple crossovers with DC in the past. One with Lumberjanes and Gotham Academy, which those characters made sense. And then again with Power Rangers and Justice League. That's obviously something that's got to be a little bit difficult to make happen, because those are two, you guys, I hate to say competition, but you guys are definitely in the very same field. So how has it worked to try to get somebody, that's very much in the same field as you to work together with you? And then both of those books were successes. So, and then to see the success come out of that.
Yeah. Well, I think the interesting thing about comics is that it is still a relatively small industry. So, and for the most part, it's a pretty friendly industry. So in the case of DC, Ross, who was our founder, had a long relationship with Hank Canals, who was up until recently at DC, and so that's kind of how that came together. And crossovers really come together when both publishers can see the benefit of it. At that time, Power Rangers was really making its mark in the direct market, and so I think DC saw an opportunity to maybe bring some of those Power Rangers fans that were coming into the market over to some of their properties. For us, Lumberjanes had hit really well, but the ability to potentially engage with some of the Gotham Academy audience that DC had built was really cool. And, we've done a couple crossovers with IDW. Most recently, we did a Power Rangers Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles crossover. And so, again, for us, it always goes back to, like, does it make sense? Is it authentic? Is it something that we think the fans are going to get a kick out of? And then from a publishing standpoint, I think both publishers need to feel like there's an opportunity to grow their respective audiences by kind of cross-pollinating two things. So once you get past that, it's just a matter of kind of working out the details. And we've been really lucky in that, for the most part, it's been a really easy process when we've wanted to go do those things.
Any new crossovers in the works you can talk about?
Nothing for 2021. Working on a couple things for 2022, and maybe revisiting one. That's
my mind is racing now that you've said that. And actually, I forgot to mention the Power Rangers Ninja Turtles one actually ended up doing really, really well. People really loved that, and that was right before. That was before the hype of Last Ronin, so that was entirely organic, So I thought that was really good. We talked about James Tynion a little earlier. The guy hit a home run with Something's Killing the Children for you guys. Like you said, he then went to go do. He's also doing Batman. He also then found time to write Wind for you guys.
Yeah.
So is James a real person, or is James Tynion code for a computer you guys have in the back? Because how does this guy find the time to write these comics?
As I understand it, he just doesn't sleep. He is a real person. I have met him. I've hung out with him. So no, he is not a computer algorithm or an alias for like a group of writers. James, look, I think James is somebody that came to the marketplace with a really deep love of comics and a ton of ideas that he wanted to get out into the world. I think he's always been very much kind of thinking about what's the next step in his career and how does he continue to build it. So Wind is another kind of like thing that was right place, right time. It was a really personal story that we had greenlit and he was working on with Michael Dialinis, who's his creative partner on The Woods, which was the first series we published with James. And we were developing it as a graphic novel series. And then the pandemic hit and we had the 8-week shutdown last spring where there were no new comics coming into stores. And as we were making plans for how to come back, one of the things that we talked about was that when the market reopened, we felt like fans were going to be there, fans were going to come into stores, but because of the way that the market had kind of hit pause on new comics, there was the danger that for the first couple months we were back, things wouldn't feel fresh. And by that, I mean like everything that was going to be coming out had already been announced and was like in the pipeline and just needed to get through the pipeline. And so we saw an opportunity with Wind to surprise comic shops and surprise fans and say, hey, here's something brand new. We worked with Diamond to get it in stores. Basically, I think the market resumed in mid-May, and I think Wind #1 came out in mid-June. And we, again, to comic shops' credit, I think we gave retailers 5 days to decide what they were going to order on Wind. And we made a video and James got out there and was really passionate about it. We sent out the PDF and comic shops gave us our biggest orders on an original series in the history of the company at that time. And subsequently, we've continued to raise the bar.
You guys just keep breaking records after that.
Yeah, it's cool. I think it's going to be tough to beat Berserker. So I think we're going to let that one stand for a little bit.
One thing I thought was really cool, because like you said, coming out of the pandemic, I mean, heck, I remember looking at the first previews after the shutdown ended, and a couple publishers took a month off. It literally said their page and preview said, because of everything that happened, we will not print books this month. Sorry about that. And you guys kind of, to your credit, kind of said, look, we got these things in the pipeline and we're going to do it. But from a publisher standpoint, what was it like dealing with not just the pandemic, the way everybody else dealt with it, but the shutdown that literally some stores were just closed for 8 weeks, like here in Florida, and some stores in the West Coast were closed for 2, 3, 4 months. How did you guys try to handle that as a publisher?
Yeah, I think, we did a couple things. I think first internally, when you're faced with something like the pandemic and essentially normal life shutting down for a period of time, you have kind of two choices. One is you hunker down and you kind of like conserve as much energy as possible and you put everything on pause and you kind of hibernate and wait to see what it looks like on the other end. And I think your other choice is to kind of say, well, we think that this, is going to come back online, that comic shops are going to be hungry for content, fans are going to be hungry for content, and let's hit the gas and let's kind of like see if we can't jump this ravine, like a Fast and Furious movie or something. That was kind of how it felt. And we decided to do the latter. We decided to bet on comic shops, to bet on the community. We made a video. One of the things I saw early on is that there was a lot of worry and a lot of frustration and a lot of fear, which I think is really natural in a situation like that. And so we made this video where we talked to comic shops and said, look, we believe in the community. We know that every comic shop is going to have their day one. That's what we called it. And for some stores, that day one was right when Diamond resumed shipping. And for some stores, it took longer. I mean, there was just a period of time recently where stores in Canada had to go to another lockdown and weren't able to open their doors. But everybody was going to have that day one. And we tried to frame it as like, this is an opportunity. This is an opportunity to, make another first impression with your community, to engage with them deeper, to, remind them why a comic shop is their chosen third place, which is that, place that we all look for. That's like our clubhouse, or our place that we get to hang out with people who have similar interests, and it's not home and it's not work. It's this like place we choose to be. And so that's what we saw as the opportunity. And fortunately it panned out. It worked out pretty well. And we were there. We had new content coming out every single week last year, and at a similar volume as what we had planned to do originally.
Yeah, no, it was awesome because, like you said, stores were starved for it. There was honestly about 8 weeks, almost 2 months, where there was no shipments from Diamond, and that's honestly what opened us up to doing what we now call the Collective Initiative, which is where we support Kickstarters and everything like that, which started the show and everything. So the pandemic did cause a lot of great ideas in comics, but it put a lot of people in tough spots. And actually, William Sam Quinton, he's our first ever Collective Initiative book, and Joey Pineda is actually also in here. He's a Collective Initiative. So these are two Kickstarter creators sitting here watching us talk about comics. It's awesome. One of the last IPs, because I didn't get a chance to talk on it, I guess it'd be considered an IP. WWE. You guys work with them.
Mm-hmm.
That's a different animal in itself. One, because you got to work with a guy. I hear he can be a nice guy, but I also hear he can be tough. You guys got to work with Vince McMahon a little bit, and then you're working with, not to like show people behind the curtain, but these guys are kind of characters. You're writing characters that are acting, in a way. How do you guys handle writing the WWE books and handling those creative teams and things like that?
Yeah, for sure. Well, and that like the fact that it is a live show and it's on every week and it's constantly changing is definitely does present challenges. But I have to say that like WWE has been one of our best partners since we started working with them. They're so open to new ideas and different approaches, and so supportive that it's really fantastic. We have a guy we work very closely with over there who runs their publishing program, Steve Pantaleo, and he's just been our biggest cheerleader. And the approach we took to WWE was, what we had seen in comics was that the comics that had come out with the superstars always tried to marry it up with some other genre or some other like story hook to pull people in. We thought, but like, that's not why people watch wrestling. These characters are cool. These stories are cool. And so we were like, well, what if we essentially extended the idea that these characters that these athletes and these entertainers are portraying, they continue to live their lives and act the way that you see them in the ring outside of the ring. And how do we tell big stories kind of in between what happens on the shows? And we've got a new WWE book coming up, I think next month. It's the New Day. I apologize, there's somebody running a lawnmower right outside.
I was like, that's exactly. No, you're fine. But yeah, you guys have it's a New Day Power of Positivity, I believe, right?
We had a fun experience.
Yep. New Day Power of Positivity is coming out. It's a 2-issue series. Both issues are basically double size, so you're going to get essentially a limited series in 2 issues, and it tells the story of the 3 guys, coming together, and becoming the New Day and becoming what is arguably the most dominant tag team in the history of WWE. And it was awesome. Like, Kofi came to Comic-Con and it helped us announce the series. And we're really excited to finally be getting it out into the world. And I think if you are a wrestling fan and you haven't checked out our WWE comics, I think you'll be really, really happy with what you find.
I was actually going to say, we have some WWE comics in the store, but one of them, the referee that's featured in there is actually a customer of our store, and he signed it for us and everything. It's in our
That's amazing.
In our case. Yeah.
So I will say this, as a lifelong WWE fan, I truly appreciate the direction that Boom has gone with the books as opposed to previous publishers, because like you said, it's not taking these actual real people who portray these characters that basically they're portraying like just amplified versions of themselves and throwing them into these comic book situations. It's taking those stories and kind of building on what you might not see on camera, and it really allows myself as a fan and whatnot to,
I think, even new
really
fans.
like it allows that bit of imagination to run wild and see what could like really be if you were following them around day to day, moment to moment. And I've really dug the stuff you guys have done with that.
And I'm excited to see what you guys are going to do with the New Day book, because those guys are all kind of nerds along with us. I mean, those guys are really big nerds.
New Day book.
Oh yeah, we tried to get a signing set up for that because they're here.
We tried to do an exclusive cover, but your guys over there said that there wasn't the ability to do that. So we were like, okay. And then because we have personal connections with WWE, I've actually been in contact with their vice president. I believe it's the vice president of talent relations, trying to get the guys to come to the store to do a signing when the book releases. That's been a nightmare. We've been trying to figure something big.
We're just going to get Filip down here to sign it.
Yeah, exactly. We've been trying to figure out something big to do for this because it's like all right there at the grasp of our, finger.
Yeah. And
like
you guys
coming out of the pandemic, everybody's still kind of really weary about letting the superstars come out and do appearances and things like that. So it's been rough, but I'm crossing my fingers that somewhere down the line we can get something.
Now, do you guys handle the WWE books? Do you guys do them quarterly? Do you guys kind of try to handle them as annuals? Because I know that they don't have a normal release schedule.
Right. Yeah, I think coming back, when that was one of the series that when we were looking at graphic novels before the pandemic and kind of doing these like big annual releases, and then we saw, with kind of the new footprint and the new audience that Boom had been able to create over the last year in comic shops, we wanted to bring the New Day into comic shops. So right now, the New Day is what we've got planned for this year, and then can't talk about what we've got planned past that. But we're we're really excited because those guys are, like you said, they're part of our tribe. They're geeks, they're nerds, they love comic books, they love video games. They are really part of the culture, and so I think there's a real cool opportunity to get those fandoms to intermix with this one.
I'm noticing a theme after this interview. Boom seems to work with really authentic people, which is great to hear, because you mentioned it with New Day, you mentioned it with Keanu, you mentioned with James, and that's really great to hear, because part of us, what we do with the collective initiative, it's like it's nice to help. It's nice to support nice people, and it seems like you guys are on the right path with all your creators as well. As we wrap it up, Filip, since this is the 50th show and you've been with Boom for a while, just talk to us about how you've seen, in your time there, how you've seen Boom grow. Obviously, Something is Killing the Children, Berserker have been monumental moments for the publisher, but how have you seen it grow over the years?
Oh man! Well, to give context, I joined Boom in 2012. I was the 15th employee at the time. We're nearly 50 employees at this point. So just like literally we've grown, like it's a bigger team. And I think, we've gone from being a really, really well-respected publisher that would have a series that people were really excited about. Obviously in the early days, there were massive fans of licensed properties like 28 Days Later and Farscape and Warhammer and on, and our Planet of the Apes books. And then I think we also had developed a reputation for doing some really interesting original work, whether that was Irredeemable really kind of put us on the map. But, the last, I guess it's almost, I'm celebrating my 9th year at Boom. In that time, we acquired Archaea. We got our first look deal with 20th Century Fox, now have, partnered with Netflix. We've grown both homegrown talent, folks that have started at Boom and built their careers with us, as well as getting, exciting creators to come over, like Tom Taylor doing Seven Secrets with us and Danielle De Nicolo and Al Ewing and Simone Di Meo doing We Only Find Them When They're Dead, as well as like the current crop. I mean, I'm so excited to see books like The Many Deaths of Layla Starr just rack up amazing critical responses and reviews. Ram V and Felipe Andrade are doing just, I think, career best work in that series. We had Eve come out, which is a series written by Victor Laval, who is somebody that we brought into comics from the prose world. And then, just this week, we were finalizing orders for a new series coming out next month called Dark Blood by LaToya Morgan, who's worked on The Walking Dead and Into the Badlands for AMC, and is now going to be doing her first original series with an incredible new artist named Walt Barna. And so super, super excited for just, I guess, the underlying goal for Boom has always been, how do we reach those new readers? And I feel like we've been really successful over the last few years in doing that. And comic shops like The Collective are a big piece of that. So thank you guys for everything that you do. Really, sincerely could not do it without you. You know, y'all are the ones that are handing the books to people and spreading the good word of comics. So thank you so much for everything that you do week in and week out.
Well, yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, that's why that's why Brent says you could be a White House press secretary, huh? But and you actually mentioned. So first of all, I got another authentic person in a great series is Ram V and Many Deaths of Lila Starr. I forgot about that one. Eve.
It's hard to remember.
Is an amazing book. That number one sold. We ordered. My boss Brent thought I was crazy when I ordered 100, and then here we are needing a second print. And that book was phenomenal. And I just so I know nobody's counting. It's not super competition, but how does it feel to kind of be the fourth biggest publisher in the market? And you guys are kind of right there with Image nowadays.
Yeah, feels good. I think it feels good in the sense that it means that we're doing right by creators that we believe in, that we are hopefully broadening people's experience with comics, and giving them some fresh things to really enjoy. So that's the part that gets us fired up in the morning.
So man, it's been awesome to talk to you. It's been awesome to pick your brain and find out some cool stuff about some of these creators. Before I let you go, is there anything cool, any cool surprise, anything that you can let our viewers know since you are here? Anything cool that Boom is doing in the future?
No, I feel like I teased some good stuff.
You did,
You did, but you didn't tease enough. No.
Well, I tell you what, I'm really excited for fans to check out our free comic book day offerings. I think there's going to be some really cool things in those books for people, new readers to discover and jump in. I'll tease that I think that while Berserker was our biggest series of the year, and it's going to be very difficult to top that, I think we have a really exciting, really massive series that hasn't been announced yet that'll be announced in the fall. So that is
1,000 copies again.
I don't know if I can do 1,000 again, Philip.
Maybe, but if we do, it'll be worth it. I think.
I won't doubt you have our undying support, which is again, even when we maybe are wondering, do we need to do 50? It's like, well, Boom and Ross and Philip have done well by us, so that extra 10 is not going to hurt. But yeah, I mean, we are on board, my friend. We are here.
Well, I appreciate it. I think we'll be announcing it coming up in the next month or so, and I think you'll definitely recognize it when we make that that news public. And then just beyond that, I think continue keeping an eye on us, because we love innovating. We love pushing both in terms of the types of books that we do. And how ambitious we are. Oh, I'll tease one other thing, which is we started with Power Rangers. The special that's coming out tomorrow, keep an eye on that. It's going to lead to some pretty exciting things come the fall 2021. So this fall, we're gonna have some big shakeups in the Power Rangers universe. Stay tuned.
I like it. I like it a lot. Thank you so much, Philip, for giving us the time, man. Definitely let Keanu know that I'm already booking episode 100. So if he wants to come on, like he's my first pick,
No, actually, I think he's third on the list.
I'll pass it along. I'm sure he'll be flattered.
Yeah, thanks. So guys, don't forget, as he mentioned again, and big things coming out of it. This is going to be on store shelves. Power Rangers Unlimited: Edge of Darkness, written by Frank. Do I say it right? Gogol. Frank Gogol. Everywhere that comics are sold should have this, but we will have it here at the Collective, both covers, and we have the 1 in 25 incentive. Philip, thank you so much. We didn't do 50, unfortunately.
I think we have 50.
1 in 50. We got Derek Chu in the building too. I love Derek Chu, by the way. I love that you guys did that cover. But yeah, Philip, thank you so much for giving us the time, man. Enjoy the rest of your day over there. I know you're on the West Coast, so you got a little bit of daylight left over there. But thank you so much, and send our love to Ross and Morgan and everybody else over at Boom. And Keanu, of course.
And Keanu, we'll do, Danny. Thank you guys, and keep up the good work. Thanks so much.
Thank you very much, man. Take it easy.
You too.
So thank you very much to my guest, Philip from Boom Studios. Again, the newest book is going to be Power Rangers Unlimited. Definitely grab that. And if you haven't grabbed Berserker, I don't know what you're doing, but grab a Berserker. If you're nice to us, we might give you a free Something Is Killing the Children #1, and then you can grab the trade. And don't forget to vote for us in the Best of Orlando. I don't have the thingy, but it's down there. Vote for us. Goods and Services, best comic shop. If we place top 3, we'll be throwing a party here in the store, and things will be fun. So Steven's got his auction show tomorrow with some cool stuff, including... Was there one cool thing? Can I show one cool thing?
I don't know.
This is the thing. This is there.
This stuff.
All right. Get us out of here.
This is cool.
Oh, look at this. This is a no prize. Am I holding it the right way?
No, it's upside down.
Oh, okay. That's going to be on the show. So everything starts at $1, 5:30 tomorrow. Knocked over that monster. Take it easy, y'all. Episode 51 next